Picture this. You're Spider-Man, right?
Okay, yeah, standard Tuesday.
Exactly. And you're backed into a corner by a supervillain. The villain is doing the whole evil monologue thing, ranting about destiny, and he declares that his victory is, quote, an historical fact.
Oh, I know this scene.
Right. And Spider-Man, in the middle of this life or death tension, completely stops the fight just to point out that if you pronounce the H, it should actually be a historical fact.
Yeah, he completely deflates this world-ending threat, not with, a web shooter, but with grammar pedantry.
Exactly, which is such a brilliant distillation of how we view language. So welcome to today's deep dive, where we are navigating the absolute minefield of English grammar.
It really is a minefield. You take one wrong step blindfolded, and suddenly someone on the internet is yelling at you.
Oh, absolutely. Like you try to share a thought and you just misuse a comma, and someone dismisses your entire argument because you used the wrong form of your.
It's the classic internet power move. The villain's meaning in that Spider-Man scene was perfectly clear, but the grammar correction shifts the focus from the substance to the structure. It signals superiority.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we want to unpack today. We've pulled from this really fascinating stack of sources: ESL curriculum guides, academic papers on linguistic humor, Wikipedia's breakdown of linguistic prescription, and even a TV tropes page about the grammar correction gag.
It's a great mix. Because our mission here is to look under the hood. We want to figure out the actual mechanical logic behind the rules that trip people up the most.
Right, because we need to know, are these rules like rigid laws of physics that govern communication? Or are they just, I don't know, polite social suggestions we've all agreed to pretend are real?
Well, that's the defining tension of all linguistics, honestly. And to answer it, we really have to look at where the system physically breaks down when you use it incorrectly.
Let's start right there with the traps. Because looking through the ESL curriculum sources, there's a very specific milestone they highlight: the B1 level.
Ah, yes, the B1 threshold on the European framework.
Right.
That's essentially where you stop just surviving a conversation and start actually shaping it.
Yeah. And at this level, there is one word that students and, honestly, native speakers wildly overuse: the word will.
Oh, the will trap.
People use it like duct tape. I will go to the store. I will meet my friend. But apparently, relying on will for everything is mechanically wrong.
It is, yeah. It's a super common trap because will feels like a catch-all future tense. But English doesn't actually have a dedicated conjugated future tense like, say, Spanish or French does.
Wait, really? We don't have a future tense?
Not structurally, no.
Yeah.
We construct the future using helpers. And the word will has a very, very narrow job. It's meant for spontaneous decisions made at the exact moment of speaking.
So, like, if the phone rings in the other room and I yell, "I'll get it."
Exactly. You didn't plan to answer the phone 3 hours ago, right? The decision was instantaneous. The only other valid use is for predictions where you don't have solid evidence. Like, I think it will rain next week.
It's just a guess.
Right. It's a projection, not a certainty.
Okay, but what happens when I actually have a plan? Like, say I have a tennis match with Bob on my calendar for Tuesday. I shouldn't say I will play tennis with Bob.
I mean, you can say it and people will understand you. But to a trained ear, it sounds subtly unmoored from reality. If there's a definitive plan of something locked in your schedule, the rule dictates you use the present continuous. You say, I am playing tennis with Bob.
But wait, you're using a present tense "I am playing" to talk about Tuesday. How does pulling a future event into the present make any sense?
Well, think about the psychology of it. By using the present continuous, you're linguistically pulling that future event into your present reality to show how solid it is. The gears are already turning. The court is booked.
Bob is confirmed.
Bob is confirmed.
Yeah.
The action is so certain, it basically has the weight of a present reality. If you say, I will play tennis, it sounds like you're deciding right then and there to maybe play. It strips away the certainty.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that. The grammar isn't just marking the time, it's actually encoding your intention.
It encodes intention beautifully. But time is usually where the biggest structural collapses happen.
Which brings us to a massive pet peeve from the sources: the yesterday paradox. According to the forums we reviewed, you absolutely cannot mix the present perfect tense with specific markers of the past. Like, you can't say, I have visited Niagara Falls last weekend.
You cannot. And this error is fascinating because it exposes how we orient ourselves to time. It's not just a strict teacher making up a rule, it's a structural impossibility.
How so?
So the present perfect saying, I have seen or I have visited, is fundamentally anchored to the present moment. Linguists call it the before present tense. The action happened in the past, sure, but the spotlight is entirely on the result impacting you right now.
But yesterday or last weekend are also about the past. Why do they break the sentence?
Because they place the action firmly inside a closed, fixed box. Last weekend is over and done. The present perfect needs an open connection to the present. So when you force "I have visited" next to a closed time marker like last weekend, the sentence collapses. It has to be the simple past. I visited Niagara Falls last weekend.
Okay, so it's like wearing socks with sandals.
Exactly.
Like they both belong on your feet, they both function fine on their own, but you just can't jam them together and expect it to work. It's completely incompatible.
That is a very vivid way to conceptualize it. You're dealing with incompatible states. And if we follow that thread, what happens when it isn't the timeline that clashes, but the verb itself?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up. We have to talk about the action versus state debate. There was a test question in one of the proficiency sources, and the sentence was, "I'm believing you have submitted all the necessary documents."
Oh, yeah. That hurts to hear.
Right. My brain instantly rejects it. It sounds so clunky, but believe is a verb. So why does "I am believing" feel like a crime?
To understand that, we have to look at how we categorize reality. Verbs are basically split into two camps: dynamic verbs and stative verbs. Dynamic verbs are physical actions: run, eat, construct. You can observe them happening in real time.
Okay, and stative verbs.
Stative verbs describe a state of being, an emotion, or possession. Words like know, belong, cost, and believe.
So you can't be in the process of a state. It just is.
Exactly. You cannot continuously execute a state. It's stable. Because of this, stative verbs almost never take the continuous in form. You don't say, "This jacket is costing a lot." You say, "This jacket costs a lot."
Right.
Believing isn't a physical activity you're performing. It's a cognitive condition you hold.
Let me challenge that for a second, though. What if I'm in a courtroom listening to a witness and my opinion is slowly shifting? Can I say I am beginning to believe you?
But notice what you just did. You didn't make the state itself continuous. You used the dynamic verb beginning to describe the process of arriving at the state. The state of belief remains absolute.
Okay, fair point. You got me there. But what about McDonald's? Their global slogan is literally, "I'm loving it." Love is an emotion. It's a textbook stative verb. Are we supposed to believe a billion-dollar corporation accidentally butchered grammar on a global scale?
Oh, it's definitely not an accident. Through the lens of marketing psychology, they are breaking the rule to hack your brain.
Hack your brain.
Yeah, by taking a static, passive emotion, like love, and forcing it into a dynamic, continuous yin-yang structure, they artificially inject the emotion with action and momentum.
Oh, wow. So I love it as just a passive opinion. Like, I love my couch. It just sits there. But I'm loving it turns the emotion into an active event you are participating in right now.
Precisely. It creates urgency. It's grammatically broken, but psychologically brilliant. And English is actually kind of flexible here. Some words act as both stative and dynamic depending on the context.
Like what?
Take the word see. If it's an opinion, it's stative. I don't see a problem here. But if it's an active process, it's dynamic. They are seeing each other.
Right. The context dictates the physics of the word. So we've talked a lot about when you absolutely cannot use the continuous eng form. Let's look at when using eng is the only way to convey what you actually mean.
Yes, the subtle but massive difference between present perfect simple and present perfect continuous.
This is where grammar becomes a tool for storytelling, right?
Totally. The simple form, like saying she has drunk 3 cups of coffee, is emotionally neutral. The focus is purely on completion and quantity.
The action is done. Here's the final tally.
Exactly. But the continuous form focuses on the journey. It highlights the duration or the physical evidence left behind. One of the guides uses a fantastic baking analogy.
Oh, the cake one.
Yeah. If I walk in and say, "I have made a cake," the emphasis is on the finished product. The oven is off, let's eat.
Right. But if I walk into your kitchen and there's flour blasted across the ceiling and you look like you survived a war, you wouldn't say, "I have made a cake." You'd say, "I have been making a cake." You need the continuous form to explain why the room is a disaster.
It provides the vital context for the chaos.
And reading through these examples, I realized the continuous form is also a secret weapon for passive aggression.
Wait, how do you mean?
Well, take the sentence. They have been waiting for hours. Using the end structure emphasizes the agonizing length of time. You aren't just stating a fact, you're highlighting the suffering. They have waited is a status update. They have been waiting is a guilt trip.
That is an incredibly sharp observation. You're using the underlying architecture of the language to amplify the emotional weight. And frankly, with so many of these nuanced rules, it's no wonder people constantly make mistakes.
Which transitions us to the most culturally pervasive part of all this, the reaction to those mistakes. Correcting someone's grammar is rarely just a nice educational moment. It's a massive cultural trope. We talked about Spider-Man, but the TV tropes page on the grammar correction gag shows how deeply embedded this is.
It really reveals a lot about human psychology. In fiction, correcting grammar is almost never helpful. It's a narrative device to show a character is comically oblivious to the stakes, or they deliberately refuse to validate someone's feelings.
The sitcom examples are legendary. Think about Friends. Ross and Rachel are having this pivotal, highly emotional breakup negotiation. She writes him an 18-page letter front and back.
Oh no, I know where this is going.
And Ross's primary takeaway to win the argument is aggressively explaining the difference between Y-O-U-R and Y-O-U''re.
It's brutal. Or consider Stargate SG-1. Jack O'Neill is literally being tortured by an alien villain. He's in physical agony.
Yeah.
And yet, he takes the time to mock the villain for ending a sentence with a preposition.
I mean, correcting someone's grammar during a torture session is the ultimate intellectual power move, but it's also definitely the fastest way to get dumped. Or, tortured more.
It fundamentally invalidates the speaker's emotional reality. However, what's really compelling is that this humor isn't just a punchline. It's a highly validated pedagogical tool.
Really? How so?
The academic paper by Askelson on humor in the language classroom highlights how jokes force the brain to engage in highly complex lexical analysis.
Is that why the paper included that terrible joke about the sick teacher? The one where the teacher walks in holding their stomach and a student asks, "What's the matter?" And the teacher says, "Tense."
Yes. And the student replies, "What was the matter? What will be the matter?"
It's such a groan-inducing pun.
It is. But from a cognitive linguistics perspective, it's doing heavy lifting. To comprehend it, the listener's brain has to simultaneously process the physical definition of tense muscle discomfort and the grammatical definition relating to time.
So it forces you to untangle ambiguity.
Exactly. Trains the brain to move beyond memorized formulas and grapple with the flexibility of meaning.
So rolling my eyes at that pun proves I actually internalized the concept. Good to know. But all this talk about the grammar police begs a deeper question. Who actually writes these rules? If corporations break them to sell burgers and comedians break them for a laugh, do they hold any real authority?
This brings us to the grand philosophical debate from the Wikipedia source on linguistic prescription. The endless battleground between prescriptivism and descriptivism.
Okay, let's define the terms. Who are the prescriptivists?
The rule makers. They want to codify language, establish a definitive standard, and enforce it. They believe there's a mathematically correct way to speak, often tied to a specific social class or formal register.
So the people writing angry comments on the internet.
Essentially, yes. To them, deviation is corruption. Descriptivists, on the other hand, are the observers. Modern academic linguistics is almost entirely descriptive. They just want to observe and record how language is actually utilized by real people.
And historically, the descriptivists always win, right? Because you can't stop a language from evolving. There's that incredible story about Samuel Johnson from 1755.
Ah, yes. The dictionary.
He sets out to write his monumental dictionary because he genuinely hopes to embalm the English language. He wants to lock it in a vault and save it from vulgar corruption. But by the time he finishes years later, he has this massive epiphany.
He realizes the utter futility of his own life's work.
He literally admits that trying to stop language from changing is as futile as trying to lash the wind. You can't chain up syllables.
You really can't. And yet, the prescriptive urge remains incredibly strong. We crave order. And this desperate need for rules leads to what the TV trope source calls zombie rules.
I am obsessed with this term. What is a zombie rule?
It's a grammatical prohibition that has absolutely no basis in the actual mechanics of English.
Yeah.
It isn't actually incorrect, but it refuses to die because pedants keep enforcing it generation after generation.
Give me the most famous example.
The quintessential zombie rule is that you cannot end a sentence with a preposition. It's what Jack O'Neill was mocking the alien for.
Wait, why is that a fake rule? My middle school teachers drilled that into my head.
Because it was artificially imposed on English centuries ago by writers who wanted English to act more like Latin. In Latin, you physically cannot end a sentence with a preposition, but English is a Germanic language. Dangling prepositions are entirely natural to its DNA.
This is where that famous Winston Churchill anecdote comes from, isn't it? Someone criticized him for ending a sentence with a preposition, and he allegedly replied, "That is the type of errant pedantry up with which I shall not put."
Exactly. Twisting the sentence to obey the rule highlights how clunky and ridiculous the rule is. Now, the sources note the Churchill quote is almost certainly a myth, but the point stands. Another great zombie rule is the split infinitive.
Oh, like Star Trek. To boldly go where no man has gone before, putting the adverb boldly right in the middle of the infinitive, to go.
Right. Again, in Latin, an infinitive is a single word, so it can't physically be split. English infinitives are two words. But in 1834, an anonymous writer decided they personally didn't like the sound of split infinitives and argued against them.
And that personal preference just solidified into a fake law that people still argue about today.
It perfectly illustrates how prescriptivism lags behind reality. A rule is invented out of thin air, becomes a marker of education, and survives long after everyday vernacular proves it unnecessary.
So let's bring this all together. What does this mean for you, the person listening right now, who just wants to write a solid email to their boss without sounding foolish?
It means you should view grammar as a functional tool, not a trap. Yes, understand future forms so your schedules are clear. Know that the present perfect doesn't mix with yesterday, so your timeline makes sense. These rules aid communication. But don't let the fear of a zombie rule silence you.
Yeah, use the rules to your advantage. Know the difference between a stative and dynamic verb to express yourself clearly. But don't spend 20 minutes rewriting a perfectly clear sentence just because you're terrified of a dangling preposition. Grammar is a bridge for ideas, not a weapon.
And if we step back and look at the biggest picture here, this leaves us with a fascinating paradox to consider.
What's that?
Well, if language is entirely defined by descriptivism, if it's truly governed by how people actually use it, then common usage is the ultimate authority.
Right. If enough people speak a certain way, dictionaries eventually have to record it as true.
Which brings us full circle to McDonald's, and I'm loving it. We established that using a stative verb in a continuous tense is a mechanical error. But it's an error that has been repeated, normalized, and sung by billions of people globally for over 2 decades.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
So at what point does a common mistake cross the threshold and officially become correct grammar? Will the dictionaries of the year 2100 officially list "I'm loving it" not as a corporate slogan, but as standard, unassailable English?
Okay, that is the kind of thought that's going to keep me up at night. So the next time you are trying to share a thought and you step into the complex machinery of English grammar, remember, you might feel like you're trying to plug a USB into a typewriter, but the language itself is constantly upgrading. Keep communicating, don't let the pedants slow you down, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.